The reason I'm speaking for the Red Cross is to help with awareness for what they do. Not only is it their centennial celebration this year in Central Florida, but people need to be aware of what all the things that they do. Not only disaster recovery, but also armed services, things like that. So I want to make the Red Cross understand it only happened that day on the Miracle on the Hudson. They did a phenomenal job at what they do every single moment of every single day, and you never know when you may need the Red Cross in your life.
You needed them.
I needed them. I needed the Red Cross. Fortunately, they were there 3 times for me within a 14, 15-hour period. I have not used the Red Cross in a disaster, but I give platelets every about a month to 6 weeks. So I give back the platelets. I've actually changed where I used to give blood all the time. I found out now that my platelets actually serve cancer patients, and that's very important to me. Very important to me. So I give platelets. That's how I give back to the Red Cross, and how what they need is I try to support what they need. This 8 years, I feel like it happened yesterday. It's amazing because every so often I'll have a dream and something comes back. But the benefit I get is I get to talk about it, I get to process it. So every time I talk about it, actually something new sort of comes into my head about what happened. So what we did a couple years ago, before I wrote our book, Moments Matter, and how the Moments Matter came about is my former assistant said, you need to document this for your grandkids. So we audio taped for 9 hours, moment by moment of that day, that whole day leading up and after. And we realized there were a lot of lessons that we could write about, but it's also like a historical perspective for my grandsons to understand what happened basically minute by minute of that day, so people get a whole big picture of what happened. The way I'm different today is the way I manage my time, number one. Where I used to focus pretty much on business and what I need to get done, now I focus around my kids and family schedule. That's been a big change. But the really biggest change is the way my worldview, the way I look at things, where I felt like I was pretty judgmental. I didn't realize that until after the plane crash. But I realized, I have no basis to judge people. I realized there are a lot of people on that plane that had a lot of backstories that I didn't know about, and that's why they responded the way they responded, and the way I responded the way I responded. So I've made it a point to really try not to be judgmental, learn people's backstories, and that way, my worldview's expanded and my relationships have opened up to places and people that I never would have even had the opportunity to meet. I fly over 100 times a year, every year.
And how is it different now?
The way my flying different now is I'm much more aware on a plane. I'm either on the exit row or first class. And the reason I'm on the extra row, they put me on the extra row because I think they know I can handle it. I'm not gonna freak out. Because I've seen people on the extra row who are not prepared for the extra row. And now I value the extra row because those 2 guys were on those doors that day. If they hadn't got the doors out, we're talking a whole different story.
Right.
I give them a lot of credit. Well, a couple of the people that I know speak. They don't speak, I don't think, as frequently as I speak. Of course, Captain Sullenberger speaks. He's out there. Jeff Skiles speaks. Doreen, the flight attendant, speaks. I've seen them on the road, and I actually spoke with Captain Sullenberger together on stage in Illinois State University last year. Very cool talk. Front of the plane, back of the plane talk. You talk about an hour and a half of 1,000 people sitting there with their hands. It was amazing. But there's a couple other passengers I know speak at churches primarily in local Red Cross or local Chamber of Commerce and things like that.
So you've done a lot of these talks, and you were talking about how it helps you process it. What do you get something out of the exchange? Do you take questions? What's the best question you've ever had, and what did you learn, or what did that help you illustrate?
Well, I usually get a lot of questions, especially right now. After the movie Silly, I get a lot of questions about the movie, which is cool. I'm very, very honored to be even associated with that movie. I think one of the big questions that I received, and it really took me back. It really took me back, and I had to really think for a moment. And one of the questions was from somebody who had been through a disaster, and she asked, "Why didn't you die? Why didn't you die? But those other people did on these other plane crashes. What's the difference between you and them?" And I mean, the place got silent, and I didn't know what was going on. But my response was, "It just wasn't my time. Maybe God had a different plan for me. I don't know." But that one really just hit me across the head. It's like, how fortunate I really am. And some people look at this in a different perspective. It's like, why do they live? Right? But all of a sudden you had 15 or 20 people die in the Buffalo crash. What's the difference? That one got me. That one got me.